back and ready to go for our first panel of November, Defying Gravity, celebrating 20 years of Wicked. Today I am joined by a lot of amazing panelists. Big Wicked fans, I think. Hopefully. Anyway, I'd love if they would introduce themselves. Sparkles, will you start?
Hi. So I am happy to be doing my second panel for our group. And just like the first, I've read through the questions. I know what we're going to be talking about, but you're getting my off-the-cuff answers because that's my best form. I love theater. I am a mom of 4. So if you hear disaster in the background, it is my normal chaos. Everything's fine. And I absolutely adore this play, and I'm super excited to get started and talk about it and hear everybody else's opinions, and it's going to be good.
Definitely. Christine, how about you?
Hello, everybody. My name's Christine Evans. I am a professional hairstylist. I work on Broadway, and I've actually been very lucky to work backstage at Wicked. It's one of those loveliest companies that I've ever been a part of, totally and completely magical, and I'm excited to talk about it today.
Definitely. And John, how about you?
I am fantastic. Hi, I am John. I am a middle school educator, BFA in theater, Master's degree in Arts Administration, and yeah, love the musical Wicked, and excited to talk about it. And same as Sparkles, honest answers as we work our way through.
Definitely. And how about you, Sorsha?
Hello, people. I'm Sorsha, a professional dancer, choreographer, cabaret director, obsessed with Wicked. It's a core memory musical for me, and I'm very excited to talk about it with all of these lovely people.
Definitely. And as far as Wicked goes, I'm a big fan as well. So don't worry, the moderator does know a little bit about the musical we're talking about today. But that being said, I know that Sorsha, you said that it's a big core musical. So I guess for all of you, I would love for everybody to kind of like reflect on the last 20 years and like how has Wicked impacted your life or how has it affected your perspective on theater in general? And Sorsha, why don't we start with you?
Oh. In an absolute nutshell, Wicked taught me it was okay to be different. I did not fit in when I was a middle school, high school age in the performing arts world. Still don't fit in. And Wicked taught me that that was okay. And Wicked taught me to, one, take care of each other, look out for each other, and don't judge for face value.
How about you, Christine? I know you said you work backstage.
Wicked's actually, well, you kind of have to start at the beginning. I'm from Kansas. There's no escaping it. So I grew up, it's pretty much, you don't get out of school unless you love Wizard of Oz. My mother is a huge fan of Wizard of Oz. And when the books originally came out, she was over the moon about it. And we added she had a beautiful Wizard of Oz office. About the time the musical came out, I moved to New York as a budding little starlet. I, at that point, was performing. And I remember solidly putting my foot down and saying, no, I'm not going to listen to it. I'm not going to get obsessed with one more musical. We've all said this, right?
Of course.
So I ended up having this really crazy dream about it and had to look into it because it was just fascinating. And it's just been a part of my whole life while I've been here in New York. And then moving from my performing career into my backstage career, have it there and to have it as that friend that welcomes you home, and a great group of people to be able to work with as well.
Definitely, definitely. How about you, John?
So I think I was I was an undergrad when the show opened, and I'll admit, aside from my number one favorite musical, Les Mis, in undergrad I wasn't really big into musicals. Again, aside from Les Mis, it just wasn't really my thing. And then began to hear the music. You know, it opened, and all my classmates were talking about it, and finally listened to it, and just kind of fell in love with it. It's one of the things that kind of got me into finally, like, instead of being the angsty, dramatic actor I thought I was as a 19-year-old, going into the more the musicals and getting into the, at times, just over the top nature of them all. So yeah, that's kind of it was one of the musicals that helped me like musicals.
No, I definitely. How about you, Sparkles?
So there's a lot of duality up in here, and I love both the main characters. And it's funny because dependent on the day, the mood, or what color I'm wearing, I identify. I flip-flop between the two characters, and there's traits I think that I maintain both in general, and there's some traits that I'm like, not for me. But they helped me like growing up, and because I was a young adult, very 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 young adult, when I got into this, and I read the book first, which was eye-opening, and then yeah, and then I saw the play for the first time. And it was actually since I was a kid. I saw Cats once. And I was like, okay, I was like 7, right? And so like, wow, magical. But this was the first that I bought the tickets. I drove my butt to the Fox, and I went and sat down and watched it. And I've seen it twice at the Fox, and it just always takes my breath away. Everything takes my breath away. And so it's like, it helped me. One, like Sorsha was saying, be okay to be different. And it helped me really identify and pattern myself and give me the freedom to feel like it's okay to accept both parts of myself and to say it's all right, because you need both the and you need the thinker, you need both. And so to accept those parts of myself and to accept that different is okay. And it was just, I don't know. I can't say it's like a coming of age, but it was for me. That was the one that really helped me identify myself and move forward. And I mean, every song's a bop. So let's be real with that.
That is very true. That is very true. We'll get to the music here very quickly, but I guess my next question, I think, is going to be a hard one for a lot of people. So let's see who I decide to pick on. Maybe Christine. Our next question. Who is your favorite character on Wicked, and why? And I'm going to add to that, who is your least favorite character and why?
These questions always get me in trouble. Like, really get me in trouble. I am going to go a different way than probably everybody else is going to in the way they answer this. And I'm going to answer this because of my experience. And I'm going to say that my favorite character is the ballerina in, when we're going to the Emerald City, because I love that wig. I work with wigs. It's the crimpy little mushroom wig. It's so cute. And it's my favorite change. And it's probably one of the quickest changes. And of like the 3 or 4 ladies that I've had the opportunity to be able to work with in that track, they have all been darling, sweet, patient, and wonderful. And I have such respect for anybody who can go out there and dance on point on a raked stage.
Definitely.
So I have such unbelievable respect for all of those people who have played that role. Plus the costume is the cutest little thing with its little top hat and the streamer, and like it just makes me so super, super happy. My least favorite character. That's really hard. It would probably have to be the wizard. Because I'm one of those people that always gets in trouble with, like, don't get me on Dumbledore. Let's just put it that way. It's the concept of the power and using your power and overusing your power and doing it for all these reasons, and the tragedy that he causes with his selfishness from the moment he lands in Oz, the decimation, and then like the tragedy that he inflicts on Elphaba's life because of this. Like that is just, it's just heart-rending. And then how he tries to be able to utilize that and use it for his own good. And again, to add to his power, really, really rifles me really bad. So.
Definitely. And he doesn't own up to the fact that he does that either. Like, I mean, he knows what he's doing, and you know, he never really apologizes for that.
Evil geniuses don't know that they're evil. They just think they're geniuses. And he's given my home state a bad rap, man. Like, get your balloon and get out of here.
Not Mary Poppins. Though that would be funny. I need a crossover. Anyway, how about you, Sorsha? What is your favorite character and your least favorite character, and why? And audience, please let us know your thoughts in the comments, please.
Well, first I have to write that crossover for you.
We can put it up there with Kylo Ren and the Phantom, right? Right, Sparkles and Christine. Let us know if you were at that panel at DragonCon. Anyway,
I missed that one.
It writes itself.
It really does.
It does. Favorite character. I mean, I'm always going to be partial to my girl Elphaba, but I have a really, really soft spot for two.
Okay.
And that is Fiero. Just for that carefree dancing through life. It's a dancer, can you tell? It's that carefree, just love of life and taking everything in stride. And he had a really great, beautiful character growth from Act 1 to Act 2. I also love Bach. He's just so squishy and he deserved better. And justice for Bach. Least favorite character. Again, I'm caught between two. I'm caught between Madame Morrible. Because same thing, she had power. She abused it. Mm-hmm. She fully took advantage of the fact that Elphaba was powerful and naive. Because she leaned so heavily into the fact that the wizard is a great person. It all ties back to the wizard. Mm-hmm. But I also harbor some ill feelings towards Nessa Rose. Because I loved her, and she's the only one that flips. Because honestly, in Act 1, very few characters are genuinely likable. They're all in the college phase. They're all figuring themselves out. They all have very human flaws. Nessa was very likable in Act 1. Mm-hmm. But to me, you get to see what power does. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and Nessa became corrupted by her power.
Exactly. And what's really sad, at least for me, about Nessa Rose, and we will kind of talk about her and Bach some more, but she did it because of love, like
Mhm.
because she just wanted to be loved, and like, and that corrupted itself. At least that's in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that and she had the governess power, and everybody was bending to her will except the person that she wanted the most.
exactly, exactly. John, what do you think?
So for favorite character, I'm gonna be my normal non-committal self, but say the members of the chorus, um, because some of those, especially having just seen it a few months ago at the Fox, which is literally right there outside my apartment. Uh, yes, I overlook the Fox every day. That's why I haven't moved. But because and watching it again, some of those costume changes appear to be at breakneck speed. Like
Mhm.
they're going off and then coming right back, and having worked in theater, having worked backstage, I mean, part of me kind of wants to be a fly on the wall and watch the beautiful ballet of all those costume changes that are happening all the time. Have to be. So yeah, the hardworking members of the chorus. Yes, those are my favorites.
Mm.
For least favorite, Madame Morrible. Lawful evil is her alignment easily. Uh, I you know yeah, we'll talk more about her later, but kind of equate her with Dolores Umbridge from Harry Potter. Yes, I knew I'd get the
Good
reaction.
one.
Yeah, lawful evil is the best way to describe it. Like it's one of those. Yeah. Anyway, so there you go.
Definitely.
So yeah, favorite is the company members. I mean, the principal cast, the main cast is fantastic, but all the actors, learning all those dance routines, and then changing costumes and everything at a massive pace. There you go. Ah, yes, Jer. Hello.
Add sparkles.
Sparkles,
You're
Lydia, whatever.
catch
The
me, gonna catch
duelist.
me doing it all
We've,
night.
we've talked about the duality here. It's been addressed. So y'all like I had a note with like what Sorsha was saying. I was like, okay, she covered it. And then with John, I was like, and then you covered it. So I was like, great, that's great. Because yes, absolutely, Umbridge. But so I'm weird as always. I do have to be a little stereotypical. I'm a 3 and 3. Okay. My 3 favorites, it's Elphaba and Glinda up front, just because of their character development, what they go through, how they are polar opposites, but they still find a way to set good boundaries within their friendship and be themselves, even though they don't agree and align. Right? Like in the end, it's I still love you. I support you, but I disagree with you. And I think that is what we as a society really need to be focusing on, is their ability to have completely different viewpoints, completely different walks of life, and to still be able to support each other, like girl boss in it. You know what I mean? And so I love them together as that entity. And I think that's a good representation. I also love Dr. Dillamond. And Bach. But they get boops. And that song and like anybody that can like straight face go like mid talk to like and not burst out into exactly be like and just straight face it, like kudos, bro, kudos. So but that's an important transition for the play. It's an important thing to see because the book goes over a lot of the like political aspects, and the play kind of surface levels it, but Dr. Dillamond has such a bigger piece, and so that song and what they give him, I think, helps further the overall plot. And so I think he's an integral character. My 3 least favorite, and one's gonna make y'all mad. Okay, obviously, the wizard, right? Power and step, and Nessa, like she's a brat. I'm sorry, She's a brat in the beginning, and she's a brat with power in the end. I don't like her. Never have, never will. I'm just not a fan. And her sister's like, let me take care of it. She's like, no, let me fix you. And it's like, but I don't like Fiyero. I don't.
I don't
the
think we
love
can be friends
triangle
anymore. No.
I know. I don't like Dancing Through Life. I love the song. It's cute, but what he's intending and his intentions with it, I don't like that, because problems need solving. Problems need solving with good sense and good moral and just going, I'm like, false. And so that being basically his character. I would like to be carefree, but it actually detracts, right? Both girls are trying to do something, and he's over in the back like, hi, I'm a pretty distraction. I mean, he does that for both. He detracts them and takes away from their goals, their plans, and he lessens them instead of building them up. And towards the end, yes, you could say his relationship with Elphaba, he hits it right with her, and there is a build-up and stuff, but if we're in generalities, he is a distraction, and he detracts from their goal, their alliances, so to speak. And I don't think the play could do without him, but that I wouldn't date him. So there's
Okay,
that.
well, and this one isn't on our discussion list, so I apologize, but let's talk about Fiyero some. Okay, all right. What do you? I mean, Sorsha, you said he's one of your favorite characters. Do you have any rebuttals on this?
Okay, well, first, I still love you. So, I mean, here's the thing that sucks but doesn't. You're right. He is a distraction. He's a really, really pretty distraction.
Aaron?
Sorry, I started thinking about Norbert Leo Butts for a second.
Aaron is just the one that I have in my head, but I watch his Dancing Through Life all the time. But anyway, go ahead.
I think what pulls me to Fiyero so much is, one, we all wish we could be that carefree, and I'm not. I never have been. I have so many anxieties about existing in space as I am right now. So I look to that and I'm like, I wish I could be like that for 5 minutes. But just 5 minutes. I don't want to be like that all the time. What pulls me to him beyond that is two things. He does grow up. And he does learn from Elphaba. Because I feel like when he was with Glinda, they were feeding that vapidness to each other. When he realized he had feelings for Elphaba, one, he learned. He learned what was right and what was wrong, and what was happening in Oz was wrong, but he also saw her. He looked beyond this. Because they don't really touch on it that much. The scene Popular happens, and then she goes to school wearing a white blouse and a pink flower, but nobody ever says if they accept her. We don't ever find out, but we find out that he did. And then you look at it, you start looking back from the earlier interactions where it's like, oh, he was a jerk, but when he woke up, he woke up.
Definitely. And I also think that, at least my thing about Fiyero is I don't know if some of that was him trying to fool himself. I'm just going to pretend like I'm carefree because I don't want to worry about all the cares I have and all the schools I've been kicked out of and everything else. I want to think of that. Anyway, Christine. Did you have something to add?
I can, like, kind of taking from each of you that have already spoken, excuse me, it's the concept of he's never had anything to believe in, because he needed a broom upside the head to figure out that what you do matters. What I do to you, what you do to me, what you do with your community matters. And when he saw that with the cage and with her, he goes, oh wait, things don't have to be this way. So it was a wake-up call. And I think that if we got more of the development that we wanted, then we would end up with another 2-part musical, and it would take forever. I mean, hey, we have a 2-part movie coming out, so maybe they'll develop
Don't get
that a
me
little bit more.
started on the 2-part
I
movie.
don't know. Like, I'm just throwing that out there. But like, so it's one of those things that it's not his story. So you're just going to get a little bit of his transformation. Now, interesting thought, if this show was written today, do you think maybe we would end up with a little bit more of a story from him? You know, it's that kind of concept. I mean, is this a development of its time 20 years ago? That's
Definitely. But also, and spoiler warning to anybody who hasn't seen it, they kind of want to keep us guessing when it comes to Fiyero for like the big reveal at the end of where he fits in the Wizard of Oz universe. Because I mean, I know when I first saw it, I wasn't expecting expecting him to become that character. So you know, which obviously the Scarecrow is a huge, important
Mhm.
part of Dorothy's journey.
And you could say that he sacrifices himself.
Mhm.
You know, the ultimate way that you can be able to, like, I mean, if you think of it as a knowing sacrifice, or if he just threw himself on a sword, sacrificed himself to be able to help Elphaba and her beliefs go forward. Same thing if you want to connect that to Wizard of Oz and the fact that he sacrifices himself for Dorothy as well.
Definitely.
So I'm not going off the movie, not going off the book.
No, I totally get it. John, did you have anything to add on Fiyero?
I too wish for like 5 minutes I could be that carefree. And yeah, when I first saw it, when I first heard it, I was curious as like how he fit in, and then yeah, the reveal when that happens, I was like, you know, listening back, and I was actually replaying Dancing Through Life in my head as y'all were talking. I was like, you know, when you're brainless. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, all those hints you've been leaving.
The hints, yeah.
Okay, now it all makes sense. So
definitely. So one of the things that, I mean, it's funny we haven't brought up these characters a whole lot because they are super important, but Elfie and Glinda, like, their portrayal is obviously huge into friendship and stuff like that. But I think what's very interesting is the dynamics between the actresses who play them. So obviously we have Adina and Kristen. We just saw them back together. They're like, you don't have one without the other a lot of the time when you think of Wicked. But what it almost seems like each of those groups kind of do their own little thing. So what has your favorite casting been? Is it Adina and Kristen, or is it somebody else? And Sorsha, do you have a favorite?
My mute button was lagging.
Everything is lagging today.
Such is life. That's tough because I am partial to Adina and Kristen because those were the two voices that I heard the first time. But in my countless hours of scrolling clips on YouTube, there have been several versions of, we'll get to music later, but one of my favorite songs that Elphaba does towards the end of Act 2, where it almost seems like now, 20 years later, people are taking that opportunity towards the end of Act 2 to start digging into the Wicked Witch of the West sound, where you get a little bit of that nasal and a little bit of that higher pitch. And I'm like, she's losing her mind, which makes sense. She's seemingly lost everything she's ever cared about. So I don't know. I've seen the show one time live, and it was enough to leave a lasting mark on me.
A handprint on your heart, per se?
Dying from sweetness. Goodbye.
Low blow.
Sorry,
Such a low
I couldn't
blow.
help it. I couldn't help it. The song makes you cry.
Quick side quest. I went to see it at the Fox with my grandmother. We started out at the back of the orchestra section, and during intermission, a couple came by and said, "We're leaving. Would you like our tickets?" I got to see all of Act 2 front row dead center. Yeah.
Why would you leave, number one? Oh my God, that's such an opportunity.
Yeah, no, like sobbing during Act 2. So I've seen it once live, but scrolling the internet, I've just loved the evolution of the Glinda and Elphaba performances as the years have gone on.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. John, do you have any favorite portrayals or versions?
Of course, like I've watched pretty much every clip I can find of Adina and Kristen on YouTube, but sadly, never saw them perform it. The two times I've seen it at the Fox this past summer, and then back in 2011, the cast were phenomenal. I'm sure we've also watched the NPR Tiny Desk concert recently, and I watching it, and I'll admit I have the name pulled up here. Mackenzie Kurtz, the Glinda. Watching that, I was like, she has studied every one of Kristen Chenoweth's mannerisms. And I looked it up. She's only 26, so yes, that she's grown up with the musical. Because I was watching it and I was like, and it wasn't like a straight copy, but it was like, okay, like you've studied every little thing Kristen did with this role, and kind of made it her own with that. So watching that was just fun to kind of see that again. But yeah, the two touring casts I've seen have both been phenomenal. Glinda and Elphaba. Let me see that. Pull it up here as well. Yeah, Olivia Valli and Celia Hottenstein, the current Elphaba and Glinda. Especially end of Act 1, when Olivia, anytime that crane goes up, I was bawling. Yeah, that's one of those shows I just unashamedly will just burst into tears at the drop of a hat. So I don't really have a favorite because every time I've seen it, it's been phenomenal. These are, especially Elphaba, these are difficult roles to play. And to be able to do that night after night, especially when it was here in town, they were here for a month, did
Oh, wow.
30, almost 30 shows in a month. I think they were running like Tuesday through Sunday or Wednesday through Sunday. Because traffic was insane here in Midtown. But as a theater lover, I'm like, hey, if it's getting people into the theater, I'm all for it. I'll deal with the traffic. So I'm just always floored. As someone who's not a singer, has never been a singer, I wish I could, but I'm always amazed at any production of this that I see, or just I've sat in on auditions where people have done pieces from Wicked, and it's been phenomenal. So, just to have the bravery to attempt some of these numbers. So no personal favorite, but because they've just all been great that I've seen.
Definitely. How about you, Sparkles?
So I just wanted to tag on one last thing to the question about Fiero. I will, if there's more character development, I will eat my words. I feel as though his character is rushed. He does grow, but it's rushed, and I feel like it's forced upon. And where he ends up, I think it fits because scared brain. Yeah, so it makes sense. But if there's more development, if he was given more time, I would give him more credit. So yeah. As far as gosh, I think what I love the most, hands down, I'm a Chenoweth fan. Like, let's be clear on that. Whatever she touches is gold. I love her voice. I follow her everywhere. When she walks into rando places and sings in pitches that should make the glass break just because she can, I'm like, you do it, girl. You do it. So I'm always about that. I like Idina. I don't like how everything's like, it's like, meh. Y'all know. It's not nasally, it's like a car starting. I love her. And it's a very distinct sound. And you hear it in Frozen and everything else, and it's Idina's voice. But I have liked some other Elphaba's renditions better. But what I like most about the characters is that because they were such iconic women and such an iconic role, I like seeing the differences. I like seeing how each Elphaba takes Defying Gravity. I like seeing how each Glinda takes Popular. I like seeing the tiny little differences and sometimes the big differences. I like hearing how they're going to go, I like how all, because they take it, they respect it, but they also make it their own. And so I think for that, I really have to say, and I don't mean to be like, that person, but I do like them all because they find their own space. I mean, to go in to a role after a Titan, right? Like, these women are powerhouses. I mean, that'd be like, okay, I'm going to play right after Barbara Streisand leaves the stage. Like, what do you do with that? So they've stepped into iconic roles and found a way to give it both respect, but make it their own. And so for that, I have to appreciate everybody's collective effort.
Definitely. Well, Christine, I purposely left you for last because I think you've seen your share.
I mean, the sad part, I think the first time I ever saw the show, it was on Broadway, and I can't tell you who I saw because every performer brings such a distinct difference to the role. And so I don't get hung up on, oh, is this the person who is the principal right now, or is this an understudy? Because each person has prepared a special performance just for you. And that is a glorious thing. My favorites, though, right now are Alyssa Fox. And I'll do that. They did perform together, but I'm going to do it separately. She is currently Elphaba on Broadway. She is Japanese American. She is glorious. And as our dear Sparkles here has also, emphasized, it's really hard to separate Wicked from Frozen because of Idina and her magic and her voice. Alyssa also was one of my Elsas, and Elsa is very, very close to my heart when I worked on Frozen, and she's just a special, special person. And I just remember sitting, there was like one afternoon that they had given us lunch in between two shows, and we're sitting there talking, and she had one ring on that had a blue stone, and she had another ring on that had a green stone in it. And she's like, these are my two girls. And it was just so heart-rending of how much she carried these two characters with her. And this was years ago, pre-pandemic. So when we came back and I saw that she came back, and that it was always her dream to be the principal, Elphaba, and not just an understudy, I was screaming so loud because she is so fantastic. Her voice, as we've been talking about, like, yes, you want to hear about how they're going to handle that glissando at the end of Defying Gravity, or how they're going to do this or how they're going to do that. And I could, at any given time when I was going into the show to be able to work, I could hear numerous different people bring magic to the stage. Alyssa sings what's on the page, but she punches it in a way that you're just like, I don't need to add my own spin to this because the magic is right here. And so if you have a chance to like go and like listen to her, the purity, the sheer power this little thing gives, like, is just like, I love her to pieces. And then for a while, she and Brittany Johnson were a team. And
I didn't know that.
Is just, well, because Alyssa was swing understudy.
Oh,
So
okay.
there
All
were
right.
times where she came in. And yes, you can find them on YouTube. And I strongly, strongly recommend going out and doing that. And representation matters. And to be able to have these two women that are not white stand up there and do these characters and just bring the house down. It is just, I think about it and I get chills because from where I'm standing, I don't get to see them. The Gershwin is huge. You barely, if you're standing backstage, can barely see the action on the stage. So it's the sheer power of their voices and the energy coming off of the audience is, it's like touching a live battery. So that is just, I love these two women. I love what they brought to the characters. And it's, if you get a chance to be able to go and look them up, please do it. Cause, I mean, Alyssa, she's my girl. She's my girl.
Definitely. I have to agree. I really like what Alyssa has done with the role. So like totally. Other than Adina, which I love Adina. Sorry, Sparkles. I gotta say she's up there with me. I also really liked and I'm talking asked about duos and now I'm talking about individuals. From what I've seen of Megan Hiltley and version of her of Glinda, she did a really good job too. But anyway, we are almost at 45 minutes. It's hard to believe. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about, and I already said this once, is I want to talk about the other characters in Wicked. So we talked about Glinda some, we've talked about Elphaba some, but some of the other characters other than Fiero, because we already talked about Fiero. The side characters, whether we're talking about the citizens of Oz or the Emerald City or Nessa Rose or Madame Marble, how have they become iconic not only in Wicked but in the world of musical theater, and how are their personalities like resonated throughout the show? Because as we discussed with Fiero, he doesn't have a lot of time to grow. So how about those characters? How did their characters resonate throughout the show? And which ones stand out the most for you, other than Fiero? Sorsha, do you want to answer?
Okay. I'm like, who are you going to tap to talk?
You're not muted, so I'm going to go with you.
Well, that's because my computer glitched. I mean, again, that is the curse of the show, is you do have a lot of side characters that are really interesting, and they're very interesting on paper, and they're very interesting in the book, which, to the folks listening, if you haven't read the book, what are you doing?
The book
Go
is
find
really
the book.
good. The book is
It's
really
very
good.
different.
And it's hard to read. I actually recommend the audiobook. If you can, the audiobook is a lot easier to digest than physically reading it. As a reader who has read and listened to it, I recommend the audiobook. But go ahead.
Same. But with the musical, the running joke, because I saw the musical and then read the book and have flip-flopped back and forth between the two. The running joke in my house was Wicked as a musical is everything you love about the title and the character names. It's so vastly different from one another. Like, on one hand, you have musical, mostly fun, heavy political themes, but mostly fun. And on the other hand, you have a Guillermo del Toro horror movie. They're very different. But there's not a lot of time to flesh out all of the secondary characters. You don't see a lot of the citizens of Oz. When you do, they're fabulous because they're out on stage dancing for their lives. You don't see a lot of Madame Morrible. So for me, what sticks out is whatever their character type is, they are the most concentrated version of that archetype. Madame Morrible is, as John so eloquently put it, lawful evil. Nessa, of the smaller characters that's not Fiyero, that's named, Nessa has growth, just not in the way
Not in the right way.
Yeah, she regresses. Because she starts out, I mean, yeah, as Sparkle said, she's got the bratty undertone, and I think it's because, you know, she was born with a disability. So that automatically, you can set the backstory that she was the favorite child. And then you have the race stigma. She was white, where Elphaba was green. So you've got that whole family would be considered social pariah because their daughter was different, and this one's in a wheelchair, but she's white, so it's okay. So seeing her regress from very innocent, very naive, I just want someone to love me, to you will love me at all costs. And then Bach. I'm going to say it again, justice for Bach. Because he didn't have a lot of character development, and he was so sweet. And you got so attached to him, and his reveal was actually one of my favorite scenes in the show, just because of how the line, spoilers, if you haven't seen it, what about his heart? He won't need one anymore. 9-year-old Sorsha just about stood up in the theater and went, ha! But I didn't.
I knew it!
But I didn't.
Definitely. How about you, John? Secondary characters.
I like what Sorsha said about the secondary characters being the most concentrated version of their archetype. Again, back to Madame Morrible. Yeah, she is lawful evil. She's and I go back and forth in my head as to whether she is using her power. I guess really she is, yeah, using her power for evil. Like she's like, I'm going to achieve what I want to achieve, and what we learn, spoilers, the wizard wants to achieve. And she's going to do it to the letter of the law. You know, she's you know, I guess it helps that the person who makes the laws is on her side, and she's doing that person's bidding. And so, yeah, you can't even go, well, maybe she's just a stickler, doesn't realize what she's doing. No, she realizes what she's doing. She meets Elphaba, and right off the bat, this is the one I've been looking for. And, you know, doesn't help that Elphaba shows up, you know, socially awkward, looking for, I guess, a mentor of sorts, and thinks she has that. And so, and then, yeah, and then just as Madame Morrible keeps going, just kind of gets progressively worse and becomes more and more, what's looking for, more overt with her intentions. With
more
her,
umbragey.
Yeah, more umbragey. Yeah, it really is. It's again, and umbrage is the same thing. It's just a very concentrated version of this lawful evil archetype. And you know, so and as for Fiyero and Bach, that was again when I first heard the story, trying to figure out where they fit in, and then when the reveals happen, going, oh, okay, here's all the hints that were dropped earlier. So I appreciate that just in the writing of the musical. And so, when it comes to, the side characters, Madame Marvel, that's when it kind of sticks with me. Is just, that archetype. She really is. I'm sure someday someone will write a literary analysis of how Marvel and Umbridge fulfill these evil archetypes. So, yep. There you go.
And definitely. And Christine, what do you think?
Because I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about something, and I just kind of had like a little cluster bomb go off in my head. With Wizard of Oz, we've got our side characters looking for 3 different things: their brains, their heart, and their courage. When you look at Wicked, there's kind of like 3 questions that are kind of raised in the storyline as it's going on. What is beauty? What is courage? And what is good? And if you look at that, what is beauty? Brains. Fiero. What is courage? Heart. Bach. And the fact that he stands up to Nessa and is like, no more. And then, what is courage and what is good? Mm-hmm. So you can sit there and you can look at this kind of stuff. And it's like, these are the questions that these characters are there to ask. And that's what they're doing on the stage. And it's really kind of neat. They only get a second to be able to do it. But I think that they do it very, very well. So those 3 characters, even though, the lion really doesn't give us that much in character development going on through, though it kills my heart every single time we see him in his little cage and all this kind of stuff. And even though he's just a tail, but it's those questions that we take away that they only get a second to deliver to us. So
definitely. That's awesome. I love that you thought of that. Sparkles, what do you think? Oh no.
Got it.
I was like, no more audio problems.
I was sitting here and in my head I was like, well, Sorsha was like, mic drop on that, and then Christine just comes in all like, here, have some beautiful logic and thought processes. So I'm like, and my words are apart. Yes, all of that, yes. I would like to add, I love I love theater, and I love moments that make you go, and to me, when they go to the Emerald City, everything, like the fact that, the ensemble, that everybody could come out and literally take your breath away. They want you to have that feeling of newness, excitement, wonder, all these things, because that's what Elphaba and Glinda are feeling. And they absolutely bring that. Like every time that scene happens, I don't care how many times I've stared at the costumes. I don't care how many times I've seen the dancers and everything. It's just, I still have that sense of like childlike wonder at that. And you're like, and I love how it's perfectly executed, because that's what they want you to feel. And it doesn't fall flat. It doesn't, like, everybody in the audience is like, wow, all collectively. And so I just have to, in addition to, I have to throw in that the ensemble, everybody else, like when you have the town Ozians and then you have the Emerald City, both, I mean, they bring such a fullness. And they really help carry the emotional process for you. Like you have these characters and then they kind of bolster up the story with these emotions. They're like, here, we're feeling this, so you can feel it too. We're feeling upset. We're feeling worried. We're feeling excitement. We're feeling, and they kind of come in and just cushion everything. And so I like how they are the framework for what you're seeing, because they are integral. And they just frame everything really nicely. So I have to put appreciation for that.
All right. I didn't realize I was on mute on this thing, so sorry. I but definitely. Now we're just about on time. I have two questions left I want to make sure we get to. The first one is going to be Defying Gravity and Popular are also often considered the iconic musical numbers of Wicked. But what is your favorite musical number? And it can be Popular, Defying Gravity, absolutely. But which one is your favorite? And John, I haven't picked on you for first, so I'm going to pick on you this time.
As I said, like Defying Gravity, it doesn't matter if I'm watching a YouTube clip or I'm seeing it at the Fox. When that crane goes up, I bawl. And Popular is great. I especially love, Popular, LAR. I teach language arts, so I just love that little joke there.
Popular,
LAR. Yes. Even I was listening to the soundtrack in my classroom this morning, and when it got to that part, I was just like, LAR. As I'm like writing stuff on my board. But as for after those songs, I'm Not That Girl. It's one of those universal themes. We all have that person we know we're perfect for. For some reason, they can't see it. And we always end up heartbroken, or maybe that's just my story. But it's just every time I hear it, and especially, it's one of those. It tears me up in a good way. So yeah, outside of the big ones, Defying Gravity, Popular, I'm Not That Girl, and the Reprise. I love both of them. It's kind of probably my favorite song from the musical. So it just kind of hits me, brings up feelings that maybe I should talk to someone about. So there we go. There's mine.
It's my favorite song too. So right there with you. Sorsha, what about you?
I mean, I do have a soft spot for I'm Not That Girl. It's one of my audition songs. I mean, Defying Gravity, amazing, consistently. Popular, amazing, consistently. I love For Good, because that cuts deep. And, 9-year-old Sorsha didn't know how the musical was going to end because Mom didn't want to spoil it. She just told me it wasn't going to end the way it looked like it was going to end. So 9-year-old Sorsha sobbing in the theater. But if I had to pick one number that I could just consistently listen to over and over and over again, No Good Deed.
Yep.
It is a powerful moment because there's such a desperation there. And then there's that moment of I give up, but then it's, wait a minute, this is what Oz wants me to be. So, okay, I'm going to go nuts.
Definitely.
But there's just such a strength to it that I just, I love it.
No, that's another really good one. Like, yeah. And I think we all relate to No Good Deed. That's the thing about No Good Deed. We've all had those moments where it's like, you know what? Light it all
Flip
on
the
fire. And Sparkles, what about you? What is your favorite song?
I just love everybody on this panel because it's like I feel like we're a hive mind in a lot of ways. Y'all are mentioning my favorites. Obviously, Popular. When I first heard it, that was a song that I just sat and cried. Like everybody was like, "Oh, this is such a cute song." And I'm like, "I love this. I'm here." And Defying Gravity, always. That's great. I am definitely No Good Deed and For Good are like bread and butter. But if I have to have just an additional, like, I like One Short Day and then One Day. I love that song. Like, it's like One Short Day. It's just so cute. I know. And it's like once you start, you gotta keep going. It's like you hear it and you're like, and so I like that one too. Like, but it's not a puff piece. There you go. It's a puff piece song that I like, that is needed, and I enjoy it. So that's my additional to everybody else's words.
All right, and Christine, pick a favorite child.
It's so hard. We got to all agree that, you know, Steven Schwartz gave us some real bops. I mean, come on. It is definitely a score I can listen to literally night after night, and sometimes twice on Saturdays. So but really, honestly, it doesn't matter what I'm doing when I'm there. My oldest best friend, who I went to high school with and known for forever, we lost her to cancer during the pandemic. And every single time For Good started playing, it's one of my quiet parts of the show where we don't have a lot of quiet times backstage, but I was always able just to stop and think of her. And that's what that song is about. It's being touched by somebody, something, a show. It touches you and it doesn't ever leave you, whether that's good or bad. So thanks, Stephen, for the bops, and for making us cry a lot.
For Good, even just thinking about that song makes me tear up and cry. So, just like now, I'm like, oh. All right. So, last question. We're gonna combine with your outros. Let us know where we can find you online, stuff like that. But the last question: does green really go with pink? Christine, we're gonna go with you.
Green can go with whatever it darn well wants to. Green power all the way. Flip, flip, toss, toss. Really, honestly, the only place you can be able to find me besides Broadway backstage in the dark is on Instagram, lilypond81. You can message me on there. I'm a lot more active in my stories because life is hard right now and social media is not where I'm paying attention. So good luck.
How about you, Sorsha?
Yes. Pink goes with green, green goes with pink. They can mix together and be happy together. You can find me on the internet, on Facebook and on Instagram. And if it interests anyone in this little circle of loveliness, and to our listeners, I am the director of a cabaret in Wilmington, North Carolina. It is Greek mythology based. It is called Persephone's Pandemonium Cabaret. We have our first 2 ticketed events on February 10th and February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day. And we also have socials for them on Facebook and Instagram. Same name. I will drop it somewhere in the comments.
Yeah, and we'll make sure we link it on the YouTubes when this gets uploaded as well. So, all right, you Sparkles, where can we find you?
So pink does go with green. I actually have to wear that too. So yes, pink goes with everything. Green goes with everything. They're friends, and it also makes me think of a wonky watermelon, and that's cool too. A happy little watermelon. You can find me on Facebook as Lydia Cobb, my God-given name. Or you can find me on Instagram as Sparkles the Unicorn. Not grammatically correct because some loser already took THE, so I'm THA. So thank the ghetto. Sparkles the Unicorn. That's me in the South where we can't talk correctly. And if you're interested, I make custom jackets themed for nerds or just general life. I like expressing myself through clothing and how I present. So why don't you? And that's Frankenstein's Clothier on both Facebook and Instagram. Or you can find me running the streets going at any time.
And how about you, John? Where can we find you? And Pink and Green.
Yes, Pink and Green. Of course, they go together. Good Lord. I'm sure 20 years ago, they paid graphic designers a whole lot of money to make sure that they go together, to find just the right shade of each that work. And we're like, awesome, let's not mess this up. And you can find me as well running the streets of Atlanta going, you can also find me on Twitter /X, I guess, Mr. Lee Reads, Instagram, Threads, Mr. Lee Theater, THEATRE, because I'm pretentious. And I'm terrible at both. So I always say, follow my socials for some, grade A mediocrity. And that's what I do there. And I think that, I'm on, I think I'm on TikTok as well. I think I have one. One of those two names is probably me on TikTok as well. I don't know. My kids keep talking about it, and I know I set up an account at some point just to see what all the hype was about. And I know anytime there's a trend, I have to deal with it. So.
All right. TikTok. Technically, we have a TikTok. We have one video, but anyway. As far as myself goes, you can find me at the group name right above Sorsha and Christine and myself's head. Dragon Con Theater and Performing Arts Lovers Unofficial. We do at least one panel a month leading up to Dragon Con. The next one we have is November 29th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's Techies Do It in the Dark, Secrets of Theatrical Wizards. We got some awesome people who are going to tell us all about working behind the stage. Anyway, I hope you guys will join us then. Until then, we're going to bid you adieu. Bye.